Thank you. Love you too. Thank you all for coming out on this beautiful evening. And let me thank the Noah Kahan Band for their music. Let me thank Chai Potts for her remarks. And let me thank Mindy Meslam for being here tonight, for all that she is doing to protect our environment and fight against climate change. And let me thank Sam Tardif for his remarks. And let me thank Justin Long, one of the great actors in America. Justin, thank you so much. You know, I wish that I could come before you this evening and tell you that what we need is to tinker around the edges. We need a few modest changes over there and some minor tweaks over there, and we could create the country that we deserve. I wish I could tell you that, but if I did, you would know that I would be lying to you. This country faces severe challenges, and if we are going to do what has to be done, we together need to have the courage to make a political revolution. Political revolution. And what that means is not only defeating the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country, a president who is an embarrassment to everything that we stand for, a president who is a pathological liar, who in all likelihood, and I mean this seriously, I don't think he knows the difference between lies and truth. This is a guy who cannot even tell you where his father was born. I mean, it never ends with him. This is a president who is running the most corrupt administration in the modern history of this country, who will soon be impeached and should be impeached. This is a president who is a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, and a religious bigot. And that's just talking about some of what he is. All right. And with your help, we're going to win here in New Hampshire. With your help, we're going to win the Democratic nomination. And with your help, we are not only going to defeat Donald Trump, we're going to beat him badly. But I am here tonight to tell you that we have got to do more than defeat Donald Trump. I'm here to tell you that this campaign and our movement is not just about defeating Trump, but something very much more. It is about transforming the United States of America in a very fundamental way. It is ultimately about creating an economy and a government that works for all of us and not just the 1%. And what makes our campaign unique in this political process is that we understand a very profound point. And the reason the message of our campaign is us, not me, is that I'm here to tell you that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, no matter how honest and well-intentioned he or she may be, no president can do it alone. Because when it comes to taking on Wall Street and the insurance companies and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry and the military-industrial complex and the prison-industrial complex. No president can do it alone. What we need is a mass movement of millions of people standing up and fighting for a government based on the principles of justice. And that justice means economic justice, it means racial justice, it means social justice, it means environmental justice. And when we talk about transforming America, we are prepared together by the millions to transform our political system, which today is a corrupt political system controlled by billionaires. What democracy means to those of us in New England is one person, one vote. It does not mean billionaires buying elections or just because they are billionaires thinking they can run for president. So that means overturning this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. It means moving to public funding of elections. And I'm very proud to tell you that in this campaign, as of tonight, our campaign has received more campaign contributions from more Americans than any candidate in the history of the United States of America. We don't have a super PAC. We don't want a super PAC. I don't spend my time going to the homes of billionaires and walking out with a few $100,000. Our average contribution as of tonight is $18, and I'm proud of that. So what we are about is democracy. What we are about is ending voter suppression. What we are about is making it easier for people to participate in the political process, not harder. And what this campaign is about, and we need your help to make it happen, is creating the largest voter turnout in the history of American politics. So we're going to need your help here in New Hampshire to help us get out the vote, to help us spread the message, to help us go door to door and hand out literature, do all the other things a campaign needs. So please stand with us, because when we win New Hampshire, we got a direct line to national victory. But our campaign is not just ending a corrupt political system and creating a vibrant democracy of one person, one vote. Our campaign is about ending a rigged economy which today has more income and wealth inequality in America than at any time since the 1920s. It is not acceptable to me, nor is it acceptable to the American people, that we have 3 individuals in America who now own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. You got that? 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom 160 million Americans. It is not acceptable to me that at the time that the richest 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 92%, tonight over 500,000 Americans will be sleeping out on the streets of our country. It is not acceptable to me that when many of you are working 2 jobs, maybe 3 jobs, maybe 50, 60 hours a week, 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. So our job is to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. You know, sometimes we forget that as we speak, we are the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. But most people don't understand that because they're too busy working hard, trying to take care of their families. And almost all income and wealth goes to the top 1%. But let me tell you how we're going to win this election and how we're going to transform America. For a start, we win the election by speaking about the issues that working families in this country care about. That's how we win it. For too long, working families' needs have been ignored, and we are going to address those needs. What does that mean? It means that in America, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not live in poverty. Four years ago, when I came to New Hampshire, I said we should raise the minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour. 4 years ago, I was told that was a very radical and crazy idea, that it couldn't be done. Well, you know what? Since then, 7 states have raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And the United States Congress has raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour in their vote. And we're going to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour in every state in this country. I am tired of talking to single moms who are trying to raise kids on $10, $11 an hour. It cannot be done. What we are also going to do, it's a very radical idea. You ready for a radical idea? What about equal pay for equal work? What about making it easier for workers to join unions, not harder? Four years ago, came to New Hampshire, and I said, you know, we have got to rethink free public education in America. And that maybe in this day and age, in a competitive global economy, where it is very hard to make it into the middle class unless you have a higher education, that we should be thinking about making public colleges and universities tuition free. Four years ago, that was a radical idea. Guess what's happened in the last 4 years? Cities and states have moved very significantly in the direction of making public colleges and universities tuition free, and we got to do that in every state in America. I want every kid today who's in the 6th grade, who's a sophomore in high school, to understand that if he or she does their schoolwork, does well in school, regardless of the income of their family, they will be able to get a higher education. Here's something else we're going to do. At a time when, against my vote, Congress bailed out the crooks on Wall Street 11 years ago, when Trump and his friends gave $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and large profitable corporations, I think the time is long overdue to cancel all student debt in America. Now, people say, Bernie, that's an expensive proposition, making public colleges and universities tuition-free and canceling student debt, and they're right. We are going to pay for it by a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. But it is not just making public colleges and universities tuition-free. We need a revolution in the way we do education in this country. All right? I mean, this is not rocket science. If we love our country, if we are concerned about the future of our country, we have got to be concerned about the children in our country. I understand that children don't vote. But you know what? I think it's time we paid almost as much attention to them as to the billionaire class. What does that mean? It means that we end the disgrace of having the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. It means that when mom and dad send their kids to childcare or pre-K, that they have high-quality, affordable childcare instead of what they get today. Because everybody in this room understands that the most important years of intellectual and emotional development are 0 through 4. And those are the children that we have got to focus on and make sure they get a good start in life. I just earlier today spoke to some educators, public school teachers and educators here in New Hampshire. And they told me that in your state, and it's not different in other states, more or less, that in this state, there are some teachers who are starting to teach at $28,000 a year. That there are support staff working with the kids who are making $10 an hour. Talked to a woman at that meeting whose son just graduated from, I think it was UNH, who wanted to be a music teacher in school, but instead got a job at the state liquor store because he could make more money doing that. And this is in Oklahoma, they have reduced the school week to 4 days. All over this country, teachers are working 2 or 3 jobs in order to take care of their families. Teachers are taking money out of their paychecks to buy school supplies. All right, we have got to change our national priorities. We don't need to spend we don't need to spend more than the 10 next countries on the military. We need to make sure we pay our teachers a living wage. Children are our future, and if you love this country, you love our children, You love the people who teach our children, and we're going to make certain that that happens. Now, there's another issue. 4 years ago, I came to New Hampshire, and I keep saying this because this is how change takes place. Nelson Mandela, one of my heroes, and I know one of your heroes as well, he made a statement which I thought was very profound. He said, everything is impossible until it is done. Everything is impossible until it is done. You all know what that means? What it means is that today, something can look like an impossible dream, but after it is accomplished, people say, oh yeah, well, big deal, of course. You just think. You think about, I could just give you one or two examples. The role of women in American society. Over 100 years ago, women in America did not have the right to vote, okay? Over 100 years ago, the defining thought, the prevailing wisdom regarding women is, we all know women's place is in the home. Women are supposed to have babies and cook meals. That's what women do. That's what we all know women do. But women and their male allies stood up and fought back and said, do not define us as second-class citizens. Thirty years ago, if we were in this beautiful church, and I were to say to you 30 years ago that the day would come when gay marriage would be legal in every state in this country, nobody in the room would have believed that would be possible. If I would have told you 30 years ago that in 2008 we would elect the first African-American president in the country's history, you would not have believed that. So what Mandela was saying is that if we stand up to the quote-unquote prevailing wisdom of what is possible and what is not, if we have the courage to think about what justice means and we fight for that justice, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. And that is what this campaign is about. It is about telling the political establishment, it is about telling the ruling class of this country, it's about telling the media that we have the courage to think big and not small. And there is no idea that I'm laying out to you this evening that in fact is not already supported by a majority of the American people. All right? And one of those ideas is the right of health care in this country to be understood as a human right, not a privilege. And that day is going to come. Mark my words, it will come. And it will come sooner than later, because we together are going to make it happen. Now, the prevailing wisdom out there that you're going to see on TV and millions of dollars in ads, Bernie is thinking too big, it's too much. Imagine every man, woman, and child having health care as a human right. Imagine no premiums. Imagine no co-payments, no deductibles, no out-of-pocket expenses. So radical. We can't do it. And yet, virtually every other major country on earth has done just that. We could do it. So let me tell you what Medicare for All means, and I'm proud to have written that damn bill. It means you go to any doctor you want, go to the same doctor, any other doctor, you go to a hospital, any hospital you want. The only difference is you get a new card. And it doesn't say Blue Cross Blue Shield, doesn't say United, doesn't say private insurance companies. It says Medicare for all. There will be, and under our program, first year, it's a 4-year phase-in. First year, what we do is we expand Medicare to cover dental care, hearing aids, eyeglasses, and home health care. And in our first year, we take Medicare, the most popular health insurance program in the country, and we lower the eligibility age from 65 down to 55. And year 2, we go to 45. Year 3, we go to 35. Year 4, everybody is in Medicare. That's it. Now, my critics, who are all over the place, tell us Americans just love their private insurance companies. Oh, my God. Hey, you were supposed to love United and Blue Cross. You don't love them? Okay. So, and they say we could just tinker around the edges. Let me tell you what tinkering around the edges means. It means that if you are in a private, if your employer provides your insurance to you, as a worker making $60,000 a year, median income for a working family, you will continue to pay $12,000 a year for your premiums and out-of-pocket and co-payments. That's what you pay. That's the status quo. If you're an employer, on average, you pay $14,000 a year. Under Medicare for All, when we get rid of all premiums and all co-payments and all out-of-pocket expenses, our plan is to have a 4% tax on income, exempting the first $29,000. That means if you're that median family making $60,000 a year, you are paying 4% of $31,000, which is $1,200 a year for comprehensive health care. That is 10% of what people are now paying. Now, how do we do that? How can we manage to provide health care for all people and have the average family paying substantially less than they're paying today? The answer is pretty obvious. We end the $100 billion in profits that the drug companies and the insurance companies made last year. We end the absurdity of Americans paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, in some cases 10 times more than the people of other countries. And we end and save some $500 billion a year by doing away with the incredible bureaucracy and administrative waste that exists when we have to administer thousands of separate and different plans. It is an administrative nightmare. We have one plan. Everybody is in Medicare for all. Now, Donald Trump is a disaster in so many respects that we don't have the time to go through them all. And if I did, we would all be depressed when we walked out the door. But there is one area where Trump is not just a danger for our country, but is a danger for the entire world, and that is the issue of climate change. We have a situation today where the scientific community has come forward recently and said, you know what? not only is climate change real, not only is it caused by human activity, not only is it already causing massive damage in America and around the world, what the scientists are now telling us is they underestimated the severity and the speed in which climate change is and will be ravaging the entire planet. We are looking at the very rapid melting of the polar ice caps, the warming of the ocean, which means that sea level is rising at a very rapid rate, which will put parts of countries like Bangladesh and others and major cities in the United States and around the world underwater. Right now, Venice, Italy, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, is underwater because of a torrential rainstorm similar to what hit Houston, Texas last month. We're looking at more extreme weather disturbances. We're looking at more drought, which will make it harder for, among other things, farmers to grow the crops that we need. We are looking, according to the United Nations, at the climate refugees amounting to hundreds of millions of people who have to leave their homeland because they can't grow the food they need or find clean drinking water. So we are looking at literally an existential crisis for our country and the world. And the idea that we have a president who considers us all to be a hoax is beyond belief. What our job is to tell the fossil fuel industry, and this is what we will do when we're in the White House, to tell them that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of our planet. And I am proud to tell you that we have introduced the most comprehensive climate change proposal ever introduced by any candidate running for federal office. And it is based on the concept of the Green New Deal. And this is a concept. And by the way, on those things, people say, well, Bernie, your proposal is expensive. It is very expensive, although we pay for it. It's very expensive. But I want you all to think about what the alternative is. How much is too much if we're talking about literally saving this planet for future generations? So what our proposal did, and on this issue we work with some great members of Congress like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others, in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And we're going to do that as rapidly as we possibly can. We're going to be retrofitting older buildings and homes all over this country. We're going to be transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel. We're going to be investing very, very heavily in sustainable energies like wind, solar, geothermal, and other sustainable energies. And the other thing that we understand, which makes this problem even more complicated, is that if we did everything right in the United States, it still would not make a profound difference. We got to do it as a planet. So as president, I'm not going to be telling the world that I think climate change is a hoax. I'm going to be telling every bloody country on earth, Russia and China and India and Pakistan and Brazil and every other country, that maybe, just maybe, instead of spending $1.8 trillion a year on weapons of destruction, maybe we make that investment against our common enemy, which is climate change. This is, I tell you, the truth is, the more I read about this issue, our opponents say that we are alarmist. Yeah, I am alarmed. I am very alarmed. And everybody in this country and in this world should be alarmed. And by the way, isn't it a wonderful thing that it is the younger generation in this country, all over the world, who is telling their parents that we got to save this planet? When we talk about transforming America, it means transforming a broken and racist criminal justice system. And that means that instead of investing in more jails and more incarceration, we're going to be investing in jobs and education for our young people, keeping them out of jail. It means that we're going to end private prisons and detention centers in America. It means that we will finally put an end to the so-called war on drugs. And that means we will legalize marijuana in every state in this country. And we will expunge the records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. Too many lives have been destroyed by this war on drugs, primarily in the African American and Latino community. I'll tell you something else we're going to do, which is a pretty radical idea. When you go around states like Nevada or California where they've legalized marijuana, you see these big signs, and they, telling you to, like any advertisement, go and buy your hemp in this store or that store. And I was thinking a few months ago, here you got corporations selling a product that we got a lot of people in jail for doing exactly the same thing these corporations are doing. I mean, how crazy is that? And what we are going to do, and we have a proposal to do this, is to help those communities that have been hit the hardest by the war on drugs, often the African American community, the Latino community, and help them create businesses to profit off marijuana when it's legal. And there is another issue out there that we are going to deal with, because I, and I know you, are sick and tired of hearing Trump and his allies demonize the undocumented immigrants in this country. What we are going to do on day one, through executive order, we will undo all of the racist executive orders that Trump promulgated. And that means, among many other things, that means that on day one, we will provide legal status to the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. It means that we will move aggressively forward toward comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. And under our administration, no federal agent will ever snatch babies away from the arms of their mothers. And children will not be placed in cages. When we recognize that when a mother takes her children 1,500 miles from a war-torn area or an area where drug cartels are running the communities, living in terrible poverty, that woman and her kids are not criminals. That's what we understand. And I know that you share with me the horror that we feel almost every week when we turn on the TV, we read the papers, and there's another mass shooting. And the American people are tired of it, tired of 40,000 people a year getting killed with guns. And I'll tell you something else. That's terrible unto itself. You know what else is equally terrible? Is that my grandchildren here in New Hampshire, as a matter of fact, or in Vermont, and kids all over this country, when they go to school now, they are afraid. Their teachers are doing drills to save them in an emergency. How horrible is that we have kids who, instead of going to school happy, trying to learn, socializing, doing things, are now scared, and parents are scared. So this is my promise to you. Gun policy in America under our administration will not be written by the NRA. And the very good news, and this is good news, is that all over this country, in rural states like Vermont, Vermont has had no gun control ever until a year or so, 2 years ago, never. In rural states all over America, in urban communities, there is a coming together. Gun owners, non-gun owners. There are differences of opinion. But by and large, there is a broad consensus of the things that we have to do. We have to have universal background checks. We have to end the so-called gun show loophole. We have to make it impossible for people to legally buy guns and then sell them to criminals. And what the American people have come to the conclusion, something I believe for many years, decades, is that assault weapons or semi-automatic weapons are weapons of war, and that we should ban the sale and distribution of assault weapons in America. So our gun policy will listen to the American people and not a right-wing extremist organization. You know, as a member of the United States Senate, I'm on the Senate floor fairly often, and I hear many of my conservative colleagues talk about getting government off the backs of the American people, believing in small government. Well, I say to those so-called conservatives, if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, let the women of this country control their own bodies, not the government. Under our administration, we will codify Roe v. Wade, and my promise to you is I will never, ever nominate somebody to the U.S. Supreme Court who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. let me conclude by saying this. We have a president who, for ugly political reasons, is trying to divide our people up based on the color of their skin, or where they were born, or their sexual orientation, or their religion. What our campaign and our administration is about is doing exactly the opposite. It is about bringing people together, whether they're black or white or Latino, Asian American, Native American, gay, straight, born in the United States, immigrant to the United States. That is what our administration will be about. And what our administration will understand is that the 1% in this country, and I speak as a United States Senator who has some experience in this, I can tell you that the 1% has unlimited amounts of money and power. They have economic power. They determine whether jobs stay in the United States or go abroad. They determine whether corporations deal with sexual harassment or do not. They determine whether workers deserve and get decent wages or not. They have enormous power over our political system because they make huge amounts of campaign contributions. And many members of Congress pay attention to the campaign contributions rather than their constituents. So I do not underestimate for 1 second the power of the 1%, the power of Wall Street, where you got 6 banks that now have assets equivalent to half of the GDP in America. More than $10 trillion controlled by 6 banks. I don't underestimate the power of the insurance companies who charge us the highest prices in the world for health care, or the drug companies who are ripping us off every day, or the fossil fuel industry who continues to produce a product that they understand, they know, is destroying our planet. I don't underestimate the power of the military-industrial complex, where we are now spending more money than the next 10 nations combined, and the Department of Defense has never been administered an independent audit. Not once. Massive overruns, corruption going on, never been audited. And by the way, I'm very proud to tell you, I am the only candidate running for president who voted against all of Trump's defense budgets. So I understand, and do not underestimate for 1 second the power of the 1%. But this is what I do believe. I believe today, and I've always believed throughout my life, that real change from the top on down, it is always from the bottom on up. That is the history of the labor movement in this country. It is the history of the civil rights movement in this country. It is the history of the women's movement. It is the history of the gay rights movement, of the environmental movement. Change takes place when millions of people stand up, look around them, and say, you know what? The status quo is not working. We need real change. And we are at that moment in American history, where people are looking around us and saying that we have a president of the United States who does not respect the rule of law, does not respect democracy. That we have a nation which has massive levels of income and wealth inequality. That we are living in a nation with a corrupt political system in which billionaires are able to buy elections. That we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. That millions of our young people are graduating college deeply in debt, can't even get married and have kids or buy a car or a home. That we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. That we, to a significant degree in Washington, are denying the reality of the existential crisis facing this planet, which is climate change. That we have more people in jail than any other country on earth, and an immigration system which is a disaster. This is a moment in American history when we cannot throw up our hands in despair, where we cannot get depressed. This is a moment where we stand up and fight back for justice. So tonight, I'm here tonight in this beautiful city, not only to ask for your help to win the primary here in New Hampshire. With your help, we stand an excellent chance to do just that. And I'm not here just to ask for your help to win the Democratic nomination, and we stand an excellent chance to do that. And I'm here not even just to ask you to help me defeat the most dangerous president in American history. Tonight, I am here to ask you to stand with me and millions of other people to transform this country and demand an economy, an energy system, and a government that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. Thank you all very much.
C-SPAN's Campaign 2020 has live coverage of upcoming presidential campaign events. On Monday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern on C-SPAN 2.